The air crackled with anticipation. Summer's freedom stretched before us. It was the last day of 6th grade, and I, Sarah, was having a sleepover with my two best friends, Margo and Jenny. Pizza disappeared in seconds. Giggles filled the room. We told scary stories, our voices hushed, our eyes wide. We were ready for a night of fun and friendship. Little did we know, this night would turn into something far from fun. This night would become a nightmare. Excitement hung in the air, thicker than the scent of pepperoni pizza. We couldn't wait to be 7th graders.
Let's play a game,
Margo exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. We rummaged through my collection, tossing aside familiar boxes. Then, Jenny emerged from the attic, a dusty box in her hand. It was unlike anything we'd seen before. A wooden box, intricately carved, with the words "Mystery Man" etched on top. The box felt strangely cold, sending shivers down my spine. We huddled closer, our breaths held captive to the mystery that lay before us. A thrill of excitement, mixed with a tremor of unease, ran through me. Inside, we found a vintage rotary phone, its black paint chipped and faded. It looked like it hadn't been touched in decades, a relic from a bygone era. The phone sat there, almost as if it were waiting for someone to pick it up and dial a number lost to time. A game board depicted a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness. The figure seemed to move whenever we glanced away, its presence unsettling. The board itself was old, the colors faded, and the edges worn, as if it had been played countless times before. The rules were simple. Spin the arrow, move your piece, and answer the phone, if you dare. The instructions were handwritten, the ink smudged in places, adding to the eerie feeling. We joked about it being a relic from a horror movie, but deep down we felt a strange pull to play. We rolled our eyes, giggling at the cheesiness of it all. It was just a game after all. We were teenagers looking for a thrill, something to break the monotony of a typical sleepover. The laughter masked our unease, each of us trying to be braver than the other. It seemed like harmless fun. Oh, how wrong we were. We had no idea what we were about to unleash. The night was young, and we were full of energy, ready to take on whatever the game threw at us. Little did we know the game had plans of its own. As soon as we set the game board on the floor and gathered around it, the air grew heavy. The room seemed to close in on us, the shadows lengthening and the light from the single lamp flickering. It was as if the game had a life of its own, drawing us into its mysterious world. A shiver danced down my spine, but I brushed it off. I told myself it was just the excitement, the thrill of the unknown, but deep down, I felt a sense of foreboding, a warning that we were stepping into something far beyond our understanding. We were just letting our imaginations run wild, weren't we? The unease in the room was palpable, each of us feeling it but too proud to admit it. We laughed nervously, trying to shake off the feeling, but the game had already taken hold. The night was just beginning, and the mystery man was about to awaken. Margo spun first. The arrow landed on a space marked with a skull and crossbones. Suddenly the phone rang, its shrill tone cutting through the silence. We gasped, staring at it with a mixture of fear and fascination.
Margo, you will be the first to meet the mystery man.
We laughed nervously, but deep down a seed of fear was planted. I could see the blood drain from Margo's face. She never could handle scary stories. It was my turn next. The arrow pointed to a space with a full moon.
Sarah, I know your deepest fears.
My blood ran cold. How could this game know anything about me? The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I felt a presence in the room, something dark and unseen, watching us. I glanced at the window. The wind howled outside, and the branches of the old oak tree scraped against the glass, like skeletal fingers trying to reach us.
This can't be happening. This is just a game, right?
Margo went pale as she took her turn. The phone rang again, the voice colder this time.
Margo, he's getting closer.
She slammed the receiver down, her eyes wide with panic.
This isn't funny anymore. Let's just stop playing.
But Jenny, always the daredevil, insisted we continue.
We can't stop now. We have to finish what we started.
I felt a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. We had awakened something sinister, I could feel it. But what? And how could we stop it? Jenny's turn. The room was silent, the air thick with anticipation. Every eye was on her, waiting for her next move. The dim light cast eerie shadows on the walls, making the atmosphere even more tense. The phone's ring seemed to pierce my eardrums. It was a sound that didn't belong in this moment, a jarring interruption that heightened our anxiety.
Jenny, you can't hide. The voice was low, almost a whisper, but it carried a weight that made us all shiver. It was as if the game itself was speaking through us.
Jenny dropped the receiver as if it were on fire. Her hands trembled and her eyes were wide with fear. It was a sight that none of us would forget. Even she, the bravest of us, looked shaken. Jenny had always been the one to face challenges head-on, but this was different. This was beyond anything we had ever experienced. We were trapped, caught in a web of terror we never saw coming. The game had ensnared us, and there was no way out. We could feel its grip tightening with every passing second. The game had gone too far. What started as a fun night had turned into a nightmare. The stakes were higher than we ever imagined, but we had to keep playing. Stopping now wasn't an option. We were in too deep, and the only way out was to see it through. We had to see it through to the end. Our determination was the only thing keeping us from falling apart. We clung to it like a lifeline.
This is too much. The pressure was overwhelming. We were all feeling it, the weight of the game pressing down on us. But we can't stop now. We had come this far, and there was no turning back. We had to finish what we started.
We were no longer laughing. The game had taken a dark turn, and the fun was gone. All that was left was fear and determination. The game had stopped being fun. This was real fear, the kind that seeps into your bones and makes your heart race, and it was suffocating us. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in. We could barely breathe, but we had to keep going.
How did it come to this? We had started the night with laughter and excitement, but now we were trapped in a nightmare of our own making. We need to finish this, no matter what. Our only hope was to see the game through to the end, to face whatever challenges lay ahead and come out the other side.
Section 8. Racing Against Terror. The phone kept ringing, each message more terrifying than the last. The mystery man was getting closer, and we were running out of time. We had to reach the center of the board, to the space marked safety, before he reached us. Each turn brought us closer to either victory or defeat, safety or utter terror. The air grew thick with our fear, the silence punctuated only by the ringing of the phone and our own ragged breaths. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing the footsteps of the mystery man drawing nearer. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, it was my turn. My hands trembled as I spun the arrow. It landed on the space right before safety. One more turn, and we might be free. But then the phone rang.
"He's here, Sarah," the voice whispered, a triumphant edge to its tone.
I could hear the doorknob rattling. Panic surged through me. He was here. The mystery man had found us.
"Just finish the game," Jenny screamed, her voice laced with terror.
I spun the arrow one last time, my heart pounding in my ears. It landed on safety. The phone went silent. We held our breath, listening for any sound, any sign of the mystery man. But there was nothing, just silence. Were we safe? We sat there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, our breaths ragged, our bodies tense. The silence was deafening, almost as terrifying as the phone calls. Then, we heard it. A soft thud on the porch outside. We cautiously approached the window and peered out into the darkness. There, on the porch swing, sat the rotary phone, its cord neatly wrapped around the base. How did it get there? We had been so caught up in the game, we hadn't noticed it missing. But the chilling truth was undeniable. The mystery man was real. We crept outside, our hearts still pounding like drumbeats in our chests. The phone was real. The game was real. And for one terrifying night, so was the mystery man. We carefully packed up the game, our hearts pounding in our chests. The room seemed to grow colder as we closed the wooden box, sealing away the secrets it held. Our hands were shaking as we touched the wooden box, the weight of what we had discovered pressing down on us. It felt as though the box itself was alive, pulsing with a dark energy that we could not understand. We carried it back to the attic, each step up the creaky stairs echoing in the silence. The attic was a place we rarely visited, a place filled with forgotten memories and shadows that seemed to move on their own. Placing it in the farthest, darkest corner, we hoped to bury the mystery deep within the dust and cobwebs. The box seemed to belong there, among the relics of the past, hidden from the light of day. We never spoke of the mystery man again. The fear in our eyes was enough to keep us silent. We knew that some things were better left unspoken, that some secrets were too dangerous to share. Some mysteries we learned that night are best left unsolved. The attic became a place of dread, a place we avoided at all costs. The shadows seemed to grow darker, the air thicker with the weight of the unknown. Some games are never meant to be played. The pieces of the game lay scattered, forgotten, a reminder of the night we dared to uncover what should have remained hidden, and some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. The doorway to the attic stood as a silent sentinel, guarding the secrets we had tried to bury. As we snuggled into our sleeping bags that night, the silence was deafening. The usual whispers and giggles were replaced by a heavy, oppressive quiet. We lay there, wide-eyed, staring into the darkness. But this time, it wasn't the silence of anticipation. It was the silence of fear, a fear that gripped us and refused to let go. We could feel it in the air, a tangible presence that seemed to watch us from the shadows. It was the silence of fear, the kind of fear that seeps into your bones, that keeps you awake at night, listening for the slightest sound. We lay there, too afraid to move, too afraid to speak. The silence of knowing that some things are best left undisturbed. The attic, with its cobwebs and shadows, became a symbol of the unknown, a place where mysteries were buried and forgotten. And we knew deep down that we would never venture there again.